Merci de prendre place. On va être prêt à redémarrer pour ce deuxième symposium. Donc, merci à tous de nous accompagner dans ces deux très belles journées où vous allez voir des hot topics. C'est le cas de le dire et on poursuit justement avec ce deuxième hot topics. Je me permets d'aller en français pour l'introduction de mon symposium et puis ensuite on fera chacun nos présentations en anglais ou semi-anglais, semi-français selon la quantité de café qu'on aura pris ce matin. Donc, il me fait plaisir, comme je vous disais, d'animer ce prochain symposium qui va porter sur les gérontechnologies. Ceci dit, c'est un terme que j'utilise de moins en moins parce que la technologie se démocratise tellement que de plus en plus, on peut utiliser n'importe quelle technologie, peu importe notre âge. Et Maxime me montrait pas plus tard qu'il y a 2 jours sa petite fille de 3-4 mois qui déjà s'intéresse à la tablette électronique. Donc, il n'y a pas d'âge pour la technologie et c'est ce qu'on va essayer de vous présenter aujourd'hui. Mais on va aussi vous présenter tout le potentiel, particulièrement des environnements intelligents et des objets connectés pour supporter nos personnes âgées à domicile, mais aussi le travail des professionnels de la santé. Donc, il va y avoir 3 présentations. La première va être par Maxime Lussier, qui est un stagiaire postdoctoral qui travaille à notre laboratoire, qui est un futur chercheur extrêmement prometteur aux limites de la neuropsychologie, du machine learning, de l'analyse de big data, de l'engineering. Donc, bref, quelqu'un qui a vraiment un volet intersectoriel assez incroyable. Je vais ensuite poursuivre avec la présentation d'un projet que l'on fait actuellement en étroite collaboration avec le SUS. Et Sylvain Giroux, le dernier, mais non le moindre, notre invité de marque qui va se projeter dans le futur pour vous montrer quelles sont ces technologies qui nous attendent dans un futur très rapproché. Donc sur ce, Maxime, thank you for being here. So you're the first one.
Hi everyone. First, a warning, as Nathalie said, I just had a baby, so I have a lot of sleep deprivation, and I tend to forget English in order to learn baby talk, so I'm sorry for what you're going to hear. Today I'm going to talk to you about gérontechnology in order to detect early sign of dementia. So, oops, why it's not the same thing on my screen? Okay, I'm going to go with it. So, as most of you know, it is really important to have a timely diagnostic of dementia. Why? Because first, it left a lot of time for the patient to do important decisions about his life, but also because it lets it's easier for them to implement adaptive strategy. And if you want to try any kind of intervention, they will be more potent and more effective if you begin them in the early stage of the disease than later. So it's really important. And if you want to talk about, sorry, I'm just going to try to change this. Okay. Dominique, peux-tu juste venir voir? C'est mon écran, je suis pas cet écran-là, je veux juste... Qu'est-ce que tu... je veux que ça soit la même chose. Parce que là, je clique et ça avance pas là. C'est pas grave. Moi. Dans le texte. C'est parce que t'étais ici. Ok. Puis là, ça bouge toujours pas. Technologie. Ah.
While we wait for the technological bug to resolve, are there people here that talk only English? No French at all? 2 persons. Right. So we're going to continue in English.
Okay. So we cannot talk. If we talk about timely diagnostic, we must talk about mild cognitive impairment, which is a stage in between cognitive healthy aging and the presence of dementia. People with MCI will or will not evaluate toward dementia. But so MCI is an evolving concept. Over till last year, there was a big change in how we see mild cognitive impairment. at first, we believed that there were no functional deficit in mild cognitive impairment. So if you were to have mild cognitive impairment, you will do the task of daily living, such as cooking or managing your money, with no difficulty at all. And as soon as we see difficulties in those areas, then you will cross the bridge and have what we call dementia. But more and more studies tend to show that there are difficulties in daily living for people with MCI, especially in their interaction with low technology. So not a portable or smartphone, but really something like a coffee maker, a television, or just the washing machine. More and more we see that there are difficulties doing activity of daily living 10 years before the diagnostic of dementia or Alzheimer's disease. And also that people with difficulties in activity of daily living, it is a risk factor of conversion toward MCI and eventually dementia. So it is really an interesting aspect of cognitive deficit that we must evaluate and that we could use in order to predict evolution to a conversion toward dementia. So as of now, the assessment of activity of daily living is usually limited to low sensitivity tests. A lot of people use questionnaire, and people, when they answer the questionnaire, tend to over-evaluate their abilities, and often the family tend to underestimate or overestimate the ability of the person. Our question was, and the topic is innovation, could we use intelligent environment, so smart home, a smart that is kind of aware of what happened in the house, to address this, to evaluate the ability to perform tasks of daily living. And this in relation with cognitive performance and behavioral activity. So what we did, we recruited older adults, some that are cognitively healthy and some that had a diagnostic of MCI. We recruited them here at the Clinic of Memory and also at Sherbrooke at another clinic of geriatry. And basically what we asked them, we sent them into a new environment, so an apartment they never see before, and we asked them to do those 5 tasks. They were written on a sheet of paper, so it was not as, say, a memory task. They could look at the paper whenever they wanted, and they could do those 5 tasks in whatever order they wanted. So they were not constrained to do it in that sequence. So the first task was to put away the coat in the closet in the entrance. The second task was to prepare breakfast. They had specific rule. You had to do a coffee with 1 milk, 1 sugar, 1 egg, 1 toast. They had to look for a bus schedule between Montreal and Toronto. They had access to the phone book and the telephone. They had to wash the bathroom, at least some part of it. And at some point during their experiment, they would receive a phone call, answer the phone, and a student would ask them to go into the bedroom whenever they wanted and fold the clothes and put them into a specific drawer. So as you can see, all the tasks had a specific room in which they occurred, and this was made for us to more easily understand with the sensor what the person is doing, as we know in which room what happened. So so we looked, we filmed the participant doing that, and we analyzed what they did right, what error they did, if they require assistance, and also I spoke briefly about smart environment. So the apartment was equipped with a lot of sensor. We had all those kind of detectors, so movement detector, which are infrared detector. They catch big heat movement in the room, so usually a human or a really big dog. And this allows us to know where the person is, depending on which sensor trigger. We also had electric trigger, which allows us to know if the coffee maker is used or the toaster. And we had contact sensor on several key points in the apartment, such as the entrance door or closet in the drawer in the cupboard in the kitchen. All those sensor was connected with this little box at the top, which is a Z-Wave connector. So this is a wireless setup. And we had no effector, so forget the right part of the slide, because for this we only wanted to observe with the smart environment. We did not want to interact with the person. So this is a map of one of our apartment. So in yellow, those are the key space when there is where there's a movement detector, so we know in which room the person is. On Also, you can see the little red dot in the kitchen at the right. Those are electric sensor, as I said, on the coffee maker, microwave, and those kind of thing. And the purple one are the contact sensor in some areas. So we had one under the drawer in the bedroom at the left, and we had some other in the kitchen. So what we did, we recruited 48 participants. 22 of them had MCI, and we analyzed cognitive performance, behavioral data, and sensor data. So we'll go in detail on those. For cognitive performance, I'm sure most of you know the screening test MOCA. So there was a significant difference between those two groups, especially in the executive function aspect of the test and the memory, so the recall. We also had significant difference on 3 other executive function tests, and finally another memory test, which is the 15 modéré. So those were the 2 main cognitive domains in which we saw differences between our 2 groups. And we wanted to make sure that the participants that were referred to us by the Clinic of Memory fit those diagnostic, and we were quite happy to see. So this is, we made an executive composite score of executive performance and memory performance. So the more to the right you are, the better memory you have. The more to the top you have, the better executive function you have. Oh, I'm sorry, executive function being the ability to plan and organize several tasks, for example. And as you can see, all the triangular group really above. So those were the healthy normal participants, except maybe one which were, well, it's a little away. And the rest, the blue circle, were the MCI participants, which were all in the negative area. So as you can see, some of them had only executive problem, some of them had both executive and memory deficit, and finally some of them had only executive deficits. So we were quite happy to see that our 2 groups were quite distinguishable based on their cognitive performance. So that was the first part. Then we wanted to see the behavioral data. So looking at them performing the 5 tasks, what did we see? First, there was a completion score. It was a score on 19, and we gave points for each of the instruction that was correctly done by the end of the task. So if we had a coffee, 1 point. If the clothes were in the right closet, 1 point. We have a number for Toronto, 1 point. So as you can see, there were differences, significant differences between the 2 groups. So the MCI performed poorly on that. I'm sorry, I'm not sure about that. So this is the first thing. After that, we look at assistance. So in the middle, you see, this is the number of time in average a participant requested assistance. There was an occupational therapist in the room. So how many times did he say, I need help on that, where is this, can I do that? So there was also more requests of assistance from the MCI group. And interestingly, there were also more unrequested assistance. So that was when the occupational therapist saw that the person was really in trouble, could not go forward, and decided to intervene because he saw that they were stuck. So really often, participants did not ask for help, were in problem, and they received help. So that is also an interesting kind of assistance that was needed. And finally, we looked at the many errors, type of errors that were done. So the first one is searching. If you see that a participant is searching for a lot of time or ineffectively. The second one was omission, if they missed something. So let's say they forgot to put milk in the coffee as required. Substitution, so an action was done but it was not the right one. Often with the coffee maker, people put the water in the pot instead of in the reservoir, and they start the machine. So that is an example of substitution. Perseveration, the difference was not significant. Perseveration would be doing something that was not required or going on something and not stopping. For one participant, he started cleaning the whole washroom, though we did not ask for it. We accepted it because it was really dirty, but it was not required. And finally, a dropout is when one participant decided either to not do the task because he thought it was too hard or something, or if he just, a lot of people would say like, we asked them to put a sugar and a milk in the coffee, and they said, well, I don't drink that kind of coffee, so I won't do it. So this is an example of the person not applying the rules and doing what they want. So those are all the kind of errors. So except perseveration, there were significant difference between the 2 groups. And finally, the most innovative and novel analysis, we look at the data from the sensor. What we saw is that the difference between the two groups was especially in the presence in the kitchen. So people with MCI spend more time in the kitchen. This is not a surprise, as this was probably the hardest task of the 4 and the one on which we saw the more differences between the two groups. So they spend more time doing that. And also, interestingly, they spend more time looking into the fridge, and they spend more time looking into the cabinet in the kitchen. So there was two kind of behavior that could lead to this kind of data. The first one was opening the cabinet and just spending a lot of time looking and not finding what they wanted. And another behavior was just opening randomly each time each cabinet and not kind of learning that there is nothing relevant in that cabinet, or that cabinet is just for a utensil and you're looking for coffee now, so you should not look all of those. So there was those two kind of behavior that are kind of captured in that analysis. So and we did not see any differences in the sensor data for the other task other than the kitchen. Finally, for the analysis, interestingly, we tried to merge into a composite score, kind of a behavioral score. So what is in there? There is the score of completion on 19 that I spoke about, the assistant required, the total, and the total number of error. We combine all that, made a composite score. And we combine all the sensors that were sensible to MCI, and we combine all of those to the kitchen, the cabinet, and the fridge. What we see? The behavioral composite score can predict MCI, memory composite score, and executive composite score. The sensor data can also do that, but in a less efficiently. And interestingly, if you had the sensor data on the behavioral data, then you get a little bit more precise. So the sensor data can explain part of the variance that was not explained just by looking at the participant. So the big message that we take out from that is that sensor data alone are, for now, because this is, you will see this is primitive technology. We already went a lot farther now. But so only sensor data is not really enough. It's not better than looking at the participant. But when you merge the two, you have a gain value. So what we saw that there was a relation between behavioral data, cognitive performance, sensor data, and the diagnostic of MCI. We saw some interesting limits. For now, the smart environment is poor at detecting error because a lot of error we do not have all the sensors in the world. So we don't know if the person put out the jam out of the fridge and did not put the jam on the toast, for example. We do not know that the water was put in the reservoir and not in the pot. So those are the kind of things that are really easy to understand when you look at it, but you need a lot of sensor to get those. So we look more at overall behaviors. And since those are complicated tasks, there is a lot of way to cook right. There's a lot of way to cook wrong. And it's difficult for a sensor analysis to really get that the person is doing something really wrong or it's right. So, of course, machine learning could help us improve the analysis based on the sensor data. The problem is with this kind of specific project is that you only have 45 minutes of 42 participants, so it's not a large amount of data, not the best kind for machine learning. But Nathalie, we speak about another project that could really have interesting improvement from machine learning. And finally, the two kind of clinical output, the takeout that we can have from that. The first is this could maybe be an add-on to an occupational therapist evaluation of daily task, activity of daily living. And also, it could be interesting, let's say you are a clinician and you have a participant who had a stroke and he spent a few weeks at the hospital and you don't know, is it okay for him to go back home since he's alone and he doesn't have a helper at home? So is it a good moment? What you could do, maybe eventually, is sending for the weekend in the smart apartment that is in the hospital, and this smart apartment will detect if there are any dangerous behavior. So if at the end of the week, and you give them a list of tasks to do, so you want to be sure that those things are done, and by the end of the week, if everything is done, the sensor captures no dangerous data, then maybe it could help being assured that the person is in security at their home. So this is kind of an ongoing process, and it will lead to the next experiment that Nathalie will talk to you about. So, thanks a lot for listening.
So while Dominique will change the presentation, I just have to say that if my English was as good as yours with sleep deprivation and baby talk brainwash, I would be very happy.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. So do you have a question for Maxime? Yes, one question there.
Who have different needs further on, but how can your project help, or have you thought how your project could help know the needs of these people and how you could implement them in creating new technology? Like how could you adapt a tablet for someone with mild cognitive impairment, or how could you adapt a smartphone program specifically for in the geriatric environment?
Interesting question. As you can see in this project, we only looked at the evaluation part, and it's the first part of any smart home. So before intervening, you must understand what is happening in the house, and this part is super hard. But the next part is also hard. But so let's say now that you know what's happening, then the challenge, one big challenge I think of naturally is that you see that the person has done something and maybe you require assistance. So let's say you install a smart screen, and this person will be kind of a helper like a Siri or a Cortana, or I don't know. And they will say like, oh, you forgot to put milk or something like that. What is really difficult with those kind of technology is that people are really sensitive to false positive. So let's say you did not want to put milk in your coffee. It's a bad example, but you did not want intervention at this point, and the system want to help you. You will get really annoyed. It's kind of, if you remember with Word, there was the Clippy, the little figure that was always, do you want help? Do you want help printing this? Do you want help? And everybody removed it because it was so annoying. So one thing that we need to think about is we want to make sure that when we intervene with that technology, it's the right moment. And that is really the key, because if we don't do that, people will uninstall whatever we do for them, because nobody want to be annoyed by something they don't want to. So that, I think, I don't know if it's answer all your question, but one key aspect would be to determine when to intervene, and after that, how to, which is also another key aspect. So what kind of language do we use? What kind of cognitive so yeah, how do we connect with the person?
A very quick one.
Sorry for...
Tu peux y aller en français aussi.
OK. Merci. Désolée pour la partie des stigmas, mais est-ce que vous avez fait la proportion homme-femme? Parce que je suis surprise que les LCI aient autant de...
En fait, l'acétate est mal. J'ai juste dit le nombre de femmes, j'ai pas dit le nombre de femmes par groupe. Il y a une petite différence il n'y a pas autant de femmes dans le groupe des MCI que dans le groupe des normaux. Cognitivement sains. Mais je ne sais plus par groupe. Tout ce que j'ai écrit dans l'acétate, c'est qu'il y avait 24 femmes puis 22 MCI, mais j'ai pas dit dans quel groupe ils étaient, là, mais oui.
Est-ce qu'ils performaient mieux, les femmes? Parce que des fois, les hommes de cette génération-là, je suis désolée pour les stigmas, ont été moins impliqués à faire ces tâches-là. Fait que s'ils performaient moins bien, je ne serais pas si surprise.
Mais en même temps, ce qu'on avait remarqué dans une analyse préliminaire, là, c'est que les hommes demandaient plus d'assistance, par exemple. Donc, il y avait cet aspect-là de je ne suis peut-être pas un expert, j'ai peut-être pas fait ça souvent, donc je vais demander à l'évaluateur. Puis, donc, il y avait quand même... Ça, c'est une différence de genre qu'on avait vue. À part de ça, comme on a une différence entre les deux groupes, c'était difficile de sortir statistiquement les différences de genre à cause de ça. Mais ça, c'en était une qu'on avait vue quand même.
Maybe keep your question for the end of the symposium, because we're going to have, again, a little bit of time for Maxime. Thank you very much, Maxime. That was super interesting. So I'm the next presenter, and in fact I'm going to build on Maxime's presentation, and I think I'm going to answer some of your questions too, because now we take the technology that was developed and validated in a laboratory setting, and we take it into the real homes of persons. And in this project that I'm going to present to you, we really work in close collaboration with the healthcare system. So that's why the title of the project is, of this presentation is, When Gerontechnology Meets the Real World of Healthcare. It's really challenging, and we're going to talk about some of those challenges. And that's why I think we got a lot of funding for this project, because it is very exciting from a research perspective, and it is really exciting also for the home care services of persons with cognitive deficits in aging. So just a quick context of the project. So of course you know that home care for a vulnerable person, I didn't get any coffee today, is really a challenge. And of course we have more and more older persons that are followed by the healthcare system. And we really have to find new innovative ways of helping those persons to stay at home as long as possible. At the same time, there's this explosion of smart technologies, connected objects, smart environments, and you've been hearing about it every day in the media, the TV, or even on your own iPhone or tablet computer. So we've been thinking with the CIUS here how we could use all the potential of these new technologies to support elderly through a very new innovative care that would involve smart environments and connected objects. And what we envision is Mrs. X. So I'm going to present to you Mrs. X, and this is what we want to accomplish in the next 2-3 years. So Mrs. X is an 81-year-old person. She lives alone. She has cognitive deficits, not a lot of caregivers, and she's followed by the home care services of the CLSC. She has an interactive and smart calendar to remind her appointments, also to remind her for taking her medication. And this smart calendar will also sending information to caregivers or other stakeholders, for example, the professionals that are following her at the home care services, and send alerts as needed. Then she has a smart pillbox that is connected to calendars, so we're able to see if she took her medication at the right time and at the right moment. There will also be a lot of detectors, exactly as the ones Maxime was talking to you about, that can detect routines, her routines. So when does she goes to sleep? When does she wakes up? Did she eat this morning? So those environment sensors can help us have a better understanding of her everyday routine activities. And then when we see a deviation from her normal routine, we could send alerts to different stakeholders. So if we think about falls, for example, if we see inactivity for a certain amount of time, or if we see that this person did not wake up or did not get out of bed since the last 24 hours, for example. Then this person will have an iPad to perform video conferences with her relatives or other stakeholders, a smart safety system on her stove, and I'm going to present to you some part of this smart system, and Sylvain is going to present it more deeper. She also has a light pad to help her go to the bathroom at night and not fall, and also a flood detector who will alert her neighbor if she forgets to turn off the sink of her bath, for example. So this seems very, I would say, like in the long run, but all those technologies are already existing, but we do not use them in an integrated way, and we do not think about using them for innovative care of home care services. So that's what we want to accomplish with this. So of course you've been understanding that I've been talking about automation technologies, and you know that home automation in fact refers to a set of electronics techniques that allow processing of information in a residence. So we want to know better what they're doing, but we also want to assist them when needed. And that's what Maxime was talking to you about, that this is a very challenging aspect of research and also clinical aspects. We also want to use connected object, and you know that in 2020 they are expecting to be more than 80 billions of connected objects. So we really have to, build on that to support home care services. We want to respect some basic principles related to smart homes. So we think that it should not interfere with lifestyle or dignity. So of course, it's a little bit of Big Brother, but we don't want to go too far in the Big Brother thing. The technology must be autonomous with no extra work from the person or from the professionals. And it has to be affordable, simple, and accessible to everybody. Because the people we want to support in this project are the most vulnerable person. They are poor, they don't have a lot of support, and that's why it's a challenge because they cannot pay for having their own services. And we don't want just the rich people to have access to these types of technologies. And I'm going to present to you a quick video so that you can see all the potential that connected object can have to support healthy living. And of course, this example that you're going to see is not related to whole care services, but just try to project all the potential of those objects and how we could integrate them into home care services. Stop it here, but it's a very interesting video, so I encourage you to see it on YouTube. But of course, this is different aspects of using objects and smartphones, of course, and smart environments. But the only thing that it can do right now is to prepare my dinner, so when I come back, everything is ready, and also to do the homeworks with my kids. That would be very great. Anyway, so just imagine the potential that all those objects can have to support home care services. Of course, it's a little twist, but it's right here and it's right now, and we really have to get on the train if we want to use all those possibilities. So So we're talking about the same detectors and objects that Maxime have been presented to you, so I'm not going to talk about that a lot. I want to tell you, though, that there are a lot of international initiatives, so it is a very hot topic. And in the United States, they've been investing millions and millions of dollars. Actually, right now in Portland, they are deploying smart environments in more than 10,000 homes of older persons with cognitive deficits. So it is something that the whole world is looking right now. In Europe also, there's a lot of big initiatives. But in Canada, to our knowledge, there are no similar initiatives, and in the province of Quebec either. And in Canada, of course, there's this particular context in which the healthcare system is public. So we also have to think about how it could be integrated into a public health system. How can we invest in those? Who will pay for that? So there's a lot of questions that we have to answer. And these are the questions that we want to, of course, explore with this project that we've been doing with the CUs here. So I'm not going to read all those questions, but of course, when we talk about smart homes, there are a lot of challenges that we want to explore, such as what would be the needs that we have to address, how to develop the technology, to personalize them to be sure that we really answer the needs. How can we select them? Who will be implementing them? How can we ensure maintenance and following of those technology? Who will do the database cleaning? Who will do the analysis of big data into a healthcare system like the one we have? Are there benefits for the elderly, caregivers, professionals? What do they think about those technologies? And et cetera, and of course, what are the costs of those technologies, and can we have benefits for the society in decreasing the amount of costs of home care services that we have right now? So it leads me to introduce to you the SAPA project. So it's we call it SAPA because SAPA means soutien à l'autonomie de la personne âgée, so autonomy support of the older person, and it's the name of one of the big department that we have here at the CIUS, which is called the Direction SAPA. So we've been working in close collaboration, and in fact, Ginette Sonnet, who's the director of the SAPA direction, I don't know if she's here right now, but she was there. Yeah, she's over there. Thank you, Ginette. So Ginette came to me and she said, there's so much potential with technology. We should develop innovative care for our older persons. So we've been working since 2016 with all the chefs de programme from the soutien domicile, the professionals, all the adults, caregivers, and also a big team of researchers. We're actually 10 researchers in this project, people in computer informatics, engineering. We have psychologists, people that are specialized in implementation and cost analysis of those type of projects, because it really is a complex project. And we're doing more specifically what we call a design action research, which is a combination of action research and design science. So we are starting from the needs of the milieu and we are building with them. So it really is this CIUS project, and we are doing it with them and for them, but at the same time we are designing new technologies, so that is why we also combine it with the design science approaches such as user-centered design and participatory approach. Ultimately, we want to have 30 pilot subjects, so we are able to do a minimum of cost analysis. It seems not that much, but I'm telling you that in the last 1 year, we've been working with 5 participants, and it's a lot of challenges from a technological point, but also from a clinical perspective. So we want to measure, of course, many indicators. So just to finish my presentation, because I see that time is running, I'm going to present to you quickly one of our pilot patients, one example of the potential of this technology for the home care services. So it's a woman that we've been following since last January. She did a fall and was hospitalized. And at the hospital, they identify many risk factors such as risk of malnutrition, fire hazards, precarious home maintenance, and she had a lot of cognitive deficits, living alone. So the hospital requests many supports from the home care services, but mainly that she should be relocalized to a more supervised living environment. Of course, there was a complex social issue, so this woman was completely not aware of her difficulties. She wanted to stay at home. At the same time, we had the son who thought that her mom had to be relocalized, and the daughter who completely minimizes the deficit and disabilities of her mother. So the home care services didn't know what to do with that person, so they did, of course, a lot of evaluation, and they were mainly preoccupied by the fact that she was not eating well. So they asked us to put the same detectors as the one Maxime presented to you. So we were able to have an idea of a routine, everyday routine. And what we saw, in fact, is that she was very, very, not organized, but régulière. Régulière, how do you say that? Regular? Yeah, regular. So she tends to go to sleep at the same time. She wakes up at the same time. She does her hygiene. And she seems to take at least 2 meals per day. So there's a lot of activity in the kitchen and also a lot of activity during the bathroom and her bedroom. And we could also process the data so as to produce monthly sheets for the professionals, the nurses and the occupational therapists at the home care services. And here we see like her profile for 3 months, but now we've been following her for about a year now. So we can see cycles. So sometimes she decreases use of microwave oven, for example, and then she increases it again. So, for example, when we heard that her son went away for a vacation, she did not really like the food that she was receiving, so she was eating less. But when he came back and was giving her food, she started to eat more again. So the CLSC took this information with the other information that they had, and they decided to keep this woman at home because they thought that she was not very dangerous. And we also saw with the detectors that she was not really using a stove. So we were not very concerned about fire hazards on the stove. Sorry, my English is not very good today. So the CLSC told us, with your technology, we were able to choose the good service at the right place and at the right moment. So they have decided not to put any more services than the one she already had. And now, like I told you, it's been a year and she's doing really fine. So we avoid a relocalization of this person, as well as meal services and more nursing follow-up. Of course, it's just an example of what the smart environment can do. This is just an evaluation part of the technology, but we also want to assist those persons. So I'm going to give you an example of the safety system that we want to implement in this home to avoid fire hazards on the stove. The video is in French, but image talks by themselves, so I'm not going to translate it.
Vous verrez dans cette vidéo un aperçu du système de sécurité autonome de l'assistant culinaire. Le système de sécurité autonome interagit avec l'utilisateur via une application web qui fonctionne sur une tablette posée près de la cuisinière.
C'est correct. On va essayer de mettre le son plus fort un peu.
Vous verrez.
Non, c'est pas grave. De toute façon, les images are talking by themselves, so let's just watch.
Vous verrez dans cette vidéo un aperçu du système de sécurité autonome de l'assistant culinaire. Le système de sécurité autonome interagit avec l'utilisateur via une application web qui fonctionne sur une tablette posée près de la cuisinière.
So there's a tablet. The person can touch the button to activate the stove. There's many rules.
Les règles du système de sécurité autonome. Par exemple, si un rond chauffe vide plus de 10 secondes, alors la cuisinière est verrouillée. Ça arrive lorsqu'on oublie de fermer un rond après en avoir retiré la casserole. Avant de verrouiller la cuisinière, le système de sécurité envoie un avertissement à l'utilisateur. Si celui-ci ne réagit pas, alors la cuisinière est verrouillée.
So what you saw is that when we detect the safety hazard, so here there was nothing on the burners, but the burners were on high. After a couple of seconds, we send an alert to the person, and if this person does not answer the alert, the power of the stove is cut, so you could hear the power that was cut, and then we have to reactivate the stove. So it's just an example of what we can do with assistance. So there's this monitoring system, but there's also an assistive system that we want to implement. And then, Sylvain, it's going to be your turn. I'm almost done. It's my last PowerPoint. So we really think that we are truly chanceux, lucky to conduct this very interesting and innovative project, and in close collaboration with the real world. So the healthcare system, Ginette Sonnet and all her team, that also is a marvelous collaborators. And it's very we're very lucky to work for them and with them to accomplish this great project. So as I told you, we're going to have more health monitoring development as well as technological assistance. And as our ultimate goal is really to maintain all the persons at home as long as possible. So it's to be continued, and I hope I'm going to be able to come back in 3 years and present you very interesting data. Thank you. So maybe quick questions before Sylvain starts?
Yeah. Just a comment. I just want to say that I find the project really very interesting because it will have an impact on the decisions that are made regarding the elderly and the evidence that we have, the real evidence that we have of whether they are able to stay at home or not. And in this case, it seems that the daughter was right.
Yes, it was.
And on the other side, I see huge potential for collaborations with the industry because all the data that you're going to collect will provide evidence of what the next kitchens of what the future kitchens will look like, and we will not need the tablets. It will be already be pre-programmed in the kitchen. So I find it really very interesting, and I'm looking forward to the next results.
Thank you, Anna, very much. And in fact, Sylvain is going to talk a little bit about that because, of course, there's a lot of potential for work in close collaboration with the industry. But you see that he has a very specific way of seeing things, and one of those ways to think that technology should be democratized and everybody should have access to it, and everybody should be able by their own to implement those types of technologies in their own homes. So, Sylvain, you're going to talk about the near future. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you.
Non, c'est correct. Je pose dessus. Pour la mettre à l'heure, il y a un bouton heure. OK.
Allô?
Ça marche.
Juste un petit commentaire, j'aimerais ça rapidement.
En fait, pour les premières vidéos, ça m'a fait peur, j'en fais, là, tu sais, la maison qui arrive, qui fait tout. J'ai l'impression que ça va faire que, finalement, c'est comme si on veut nous empêcher, on n'aura plus à penser, c'est la machine qui fait tout, l'enfant qui se fait se réveiller par la machine. Tu sais, c'est comme, voyons, on s'éloigne encore plus, là, on veut plutôt promouvoir les relations humaines, là, c'est comme, c'est le contraire, c'est vraiment contraire. Petit commentaire sur la vidéo. Ensuite, en ce qui concerne les technologies, je trouve que c'est super intéressant, c'est soit un outil d'évaluation. Par contre, quand il s'agit plus de traitement, de soins, là, j'ai un petit bémol, même un gros bémol. Tu sais, c'est même inquiétant, je te dis. Avec les personnes âgées, moi, je travaille au CLSC, vous êtes à domicile, OK. Puis les personnes âgées, là, qu'est-ce qui fonctionne, là, c'est quand il y a du contact humain.
Oui.
Quand tout ce qui est, comme ces personnes âgées-là n'ont pas vécu là, avec les technologies, tout ça, probablement que ça va être différent si on fait cette recherche-là dans 50 ans, mettons 20, juste 25 ans. Parce que nos jeunes, eux autres, sont habitués, ils ont vécu avec ça, le petit 3 mois déjà qui est intéressé avec la tablette, ils ont reconnu ça dans sa jeunesse, ça va être quelque chose d'acquis. Mais pour les personnes âgées de nos jours, ils n'ont pas vécu ça. La technologie a tellement avancé, c'est pas rattaché à leur réalité. Donc, c'est très difficile d'apprendre quelque chose de nouveau. Et en plus, quand c'est de la nouvelle technologie, donc tout ce qui est tablette, tout ça, oui, il y a des personnes âgées qui, on donne des cours, puis ils peuvent utiliser ça, mais c'est très, très, très difficile. Puis surtout avec le système couple, là, d'être obligé de pousser le bouton on, puis c'est comme quelque chose de plus de leur demander à faire, alors qu'au contraire, il faut c'est tout dans leurs habitudes, donc leurs anciennes habitudes, il faut que ça reste toujours dans ce qu'ils ont connu. Donc, c'est pour ça que je ne suis pas certaine là, que ça va vraiment aboutir. Donc, vraiment, question de traitement. Ouais, je pense que ça fait le tour pas mal. Donc,
merci. Merci pour vos commentaires. Puis en fait, je suis très contente que vous en ayez parlé parce que c'est effectivement le genre de commentaires qu'on rencontre régulièrement quand on présente ce projet. Et en fait, la première chose que je dirais, c'est que, bon, il y a des gens que ça inquiète, puis il y a des gens, au contraire, que je dirais qu'ils voient le futur de façon très excitante. Donc, il y a effectivement des aspects personnels dans la façon de percevoir le futur avec la technologie. La vidéo que je vous ai présentée, c'est une vidéo qui présente à l'extrême. Hein? Donc, l'idée, c'est pas que tout le monde implémente ça dans sa propre maison, mais c'est de voir le potentiel des technologies. L'autre chose, c'est que là, on fait ce projet-là depuis 1 an et vous seriez vraiment surprise de la réaction de nos personnes âgées, principalement parce qu'en fait, ils ont peu ou rien du tout à faire autour de la technologie et ça s'intègre totalement dans leurs habitudes et dans leur façon, leur mode de vie. L'autre chose aussi, c'est qu'on a beaucoup de préjugés par rapport à ce que les personnes âgées pensent de la technologie. Et encore ici, il y a énormément d'études, et même des études que nous avons faites qui montrent que les personnes âgées, même âgées de 80-90 ans, sont très intéressées par la technologie. Il faut évidemment s'adapter à leurs besoins et toujours respecter leurs envies. Et l'idée n'est pas de forcer chez tous les clients du CLSC ce type de technologie, mais au contraire de travailler en partenariat avec eux. Donc, jusqu'à maintenant, je vous dirais que dans la dernière année, on a eu d'excellents résultats et je suis convaincue que ça va bien aller tant que, et je suis d'accord avec vous, on tient compte de leurs besoins, de leur réalité, de leurs aspects culturels et c'est vraiment ce qu'on essaie de faire à 100% dans ce projet-là. Dernier petit point aussi pour le volet apprentissage, ça aussi c'est quelque chose sur lequel on a travaillé depuis plusieurs années et il y a des façons évidemment d'aider nos personnes âgées à s'approprier ces différentes fonctionnalités-là. L'objectif est toutefois de rendre le système tellement autonome que dans le fond les personnes vont avoir peu ou pas d'implication, je dirais pas de coordination, de contact avec la technologie. Et un dernier point, ces personnes-là continuent à recevoir du service humain et il n'est absolument pas question d'enlever ce service-là. Au contraire, l'idée, c'est de supporter les professionnels pour avoir une bonne idée du bon service dont la personne a besoin et du moment à laquelle elle devrait le recevoir. Donc, c'est à suivre.
So, good morning. First, I would like to thank the CRUGM for the invitation. I'm really glad to be here this morning. So the level of English will decrease again. Okay. So basically, what I'd like to give you it's a glimpse of what we have done and where we are aiming at on part of the research that we are doing in our lab at the domicile lab. So I will just briefly present our lab. Then I will build on what Nathalie presented, which is Cook, and then I will go to let's say a bit further in the future with a kit that we are building, which is called DieHead, which the idea is that people would build their own smart home. And probably throughout the presentation, there will be some thought about the model, the business. I put quotes around business, but the model that we do in such a way that this technology would be available to everyone. And it's quite complex. And we can do that because building on current trends that are occurring now in the society. I'm quite convinced of that. So at Domus, our aim is we have in fact just one question. It is how to design relevant assistive technology for cognitively impaired people. And we would like to involve in our research all the stakeholders, which mean the cognitively impaired people, the professional and the natural caregivers, the administration, and the researcher team, but a very widespread team. It's very interdisciplinary. And for that, we are using basically 3 approaches. The first one is on the technology part, we are building at what is called now the Internet of Things, and what was called before pervasive computing. Though, how do we frame the physical organization, the software and the hardware part? Then we want to work in a very specific way, which is a participatory design. So we are always starting from the people, the question they ask, their objective, their goals in their life, and then they ask us some question, and then, okay, we will try to find a solution for you. And we have a very specific way of working. All this research has to occur in specific spaces, and this space is called a living lab. This is a place where everybody will meet and work together to build the right or the relevant assistive technology for the project. So basically, we are working at four levels. We started with by working at home, on the home, but how can we equip the home in such a way that it's becoming all the home, the whole house would become some kind of cognitive orthotics for the person. And of course, if we just focus on the home, it will become some kind of jail, because people won't be able to go outside. So we have to also provide tools for them to allow them to go outside. So we have to provide also tools that are mobile. So for instance, you have seen the cell phones. So on cell phones, some applications, so they can go outside, and the assistant will continue. And in all that we are building, we are always thinking about the family and the caregivers. So it's just not assistive technology for the person, but it's an assistive technology for a binôme, an ecosystem of person, and we want them to work together. And for that, we know that every case is different, so we are working a lot on personalization and also on context awareness to be sure that is quite relevant, the assistant that we are doing. And as you have seen on the video, we can do a lot of things with the sensor that are available now and our means and so on. So when we started the lab with Hélène Pigot, which is the co-founder of the lab with me, so we said, okay, what do we really want to do in our project? And I was contaminated by occupational therapy, I think, because Hélène is also a researcher in occupational therapy and also in computer science. So we set out principle. Okay, we can do a lot of things, and I'm quite aware of the remarks that were done by the person, the last person, and we are very well conscious of that. So the first one is we want to have shared control. This is a collaboration between a user and the assistants. And the one was sometimes that's the system that will say, okay, you have forgot to close the fridge door. But sometimes it's the person that will say, okay, I want to do that, I will need to have some help. And basically, it's the person that will decide. So that's why we are doing advising system, not system that do at the place of the person. Of course, if there is safety or security issues, the system will switch off the stove to be sure that there will be no fire. But as you have seen what Nathalie showed you, the first thing is we ask the person, okay, you have forgot something, there is something that is dangerous, could you do something for that? And if there is nothing that is due, then the system will do that. So basically, we are fostering the autonomy and the use of the cognitive capacity of the person. Another point that is very, very important for us, and I think it's almost all of the system that we are doing, there are always two systems. In fact, there is one for the person that is assisted, and there is one for the caregivers. And these systems are working together. So we always keep a human at the other end of the system. The idea is not to remove person from the assistance loop, but indeed to have a more close integration and more precise and relevant information in such a way that assistance would be easier and maybe less cumbersome for the person. Another point that we want to be discreet. Of course, we can do a lot of things. We can have lights in every room, make them flash, and displays everywhere. So we choose no. We don't want to disturb the house of the person. So we try to be as discreet as possible. We don't want to over-equip the house. As you have seen in the video, there were sensors everywhere. What we want to do is to look at what is the need of the person, and then to decide what are the minimum set of sensors that are necessary to assist for that need. We don't want to know everything. Another point that probably is strange for strange standpoint for somebody that is coming from computer science. We want to be suspicious about cutting-edge technology. We can do a lot of things with computer, with hardware, and so on, but sometimes there are a better solution where there is no technology in that solution. Maybe just a good design would be okay. So we are also doing research in design to find an alternative solution. For instance, for the meal preparation system that was presented. Before that, we work also with designers to design a special kind of table that could assist people when they are cooking. And in that table, there was no technology. And then, of course, it is always possible to add technology. But at the basis, to have solution without any technology. And another example is that, for instance, when you cook, you have to take measure. Okay, 250 millimeter of milk, and you have to take measure, and it's very complex from a sensor point of view to take that measure. But there are very simple solutions by design. So you just make different size of cups with different color, and the system will say, okay, you put 2 red cups and 1 yellow, and you have a very simple solution without any sensor, and it's working. So we don't want to overequip the system. So to do our research, I spoke a bit, I mentioned living lab, so we have a smart apartment on the campus where we can come to create research, and we can do research as the early detection of Alzheimer's disease experiment that we have. So basically people are coming there and we have a complete control on what is going on. But we have also a living lab which is installed in a residence for people having severe traumatic brain injury. So in that residence, people are living there all year long. It's really their home, they have services and so on, and we put sensors and servers and all that stuff, the same kind of stuff that we have in the smart apartment of Domus. So we can develop the technology inside Domus and then transfer that into the residence. And in that residence, we make the cook experimentation. So basically the one for meal preparation. And what I said, we are always starting from the needs of the people before deciding that it was meal preparation that would be addressed. We conduct not survey, focus groups on, with the residents, with the caregivers, with the family, and finally meal preparation emerged as something that is important for the residents. So based on that, we built that project, which led to Cook. And so we developed the technology, and the residents were involved in all the steps of the development. And they are, when they do comments on the prototypes and so on, they are not always kind. Sometimes they are very tough on remarks, and it's obliged us to change the design, to change the thing, and they said, okay, if this is the system you want to give me, forget about it, I will never use that. So we were thinking about some feature, I said, no, I don't like that feature. The feature I would like to have is that one. So we have to change all the time. And involving them into the process was very interesting, is that as they were involved, they get more interested, and they started to provide us very interesting hints or solution or direction that were involved in implemented in the solution. So we have this living lab, and for that living lab we developed Cook, and in Cook we have three parts. It's about meal preparation. There is a part on the assistance, the preparation of the meal by itself. There is a part on safety, the one that Nathalie showed us, and also there is a part on the configuration, because we want to adapt the system for every resident. So, and three residents participated to the experiment, to the evaluation, and so on. Okay. So I will present the first part, which is meal preparation. So, of course, to prepare a meal, you have to use a stove. So for the resident, we have special stove. So we buy a normal one, and we cut the wires, we transfer it in every part to get the information that we would like to know. So we add a sensor for temperature, we can know if the oven door is open and all that stuff. So basically, if you, with that stove, it's really deeply modified. But this is an example of the research that we are doing. So we are doing these kind of prototypes, and then we have seen that it's working. Now we are working on another kind of sensor network for monitoring the stove, where there will be no modification on the stove. So what we have done at the residence can be transferred in any home without cutting the wires on the stove and so on. So we are going step by step. So we have that stove can give us a lot of information, and we have also other sensors in the homes like movement detector to know where the person is. So we want to assist the ADL. The aim of the project is to assist ADL in general. So our aim as computer scientists was to build a system that you can provide a description of an ADL, and we can generate an assistant for that. This is the long-term goal of our research. But for the project, we focus on producing one assistant, which is aimed at meal preparation. So we build basically a web application which is linked to the sensors, and that can provide some feedback about that. So, and initially what we thought about is we will do some sort of cooking book. And rapidly it evolved, and it became something else, something very, very different. In the sense that we don't want to do a cooking book. There are a lot of these books on the web, and they are well done. It's not interesting. In fact, what we wanted to do exactly is to address cognitive rehabilitation for the person in an ecological approach, in the sense that instead of doing some session once a week, there will be continuous session. As soon as the person will do cooking, there will be a cognitive rehabilitation session. And for that, we had to build a model, and we built a model which has based on 4 parts. So first you have to formulate a goal, then you have to plan, to execute, to do, and then you have to verify, to check if it's going. And then you have to transfer that model into the application by itself. So, for instance, I said we want to model that process, which is a 4-part process. So if you look at the bottom of the screen, so you have these 4 steps. So the person knows exactly at which step he or she is in her rehabilitation process, and we give precise on where she is. So, for instance, here what you have coming as information. So you are in the planning step, planning part of your meal, your ADL, and you have information related to the planning. So the information was: do I have really the time to cook for the meal that I would like to do? And we provide some information on that. So it takes. There is 10 minutes of preparation, there is cooking time of 15, and so it is 10 to 5, so you should have finished at a quarter past 5. So we provide some information, and you have the steps. So basically you have all the method, the evidence-based intervention there, implemented in the interface, in the application, and the person can follow it step by step. Whenever it is necessary. So in that case, it is step by step. In the sense that the question was, do I have the time? Do I have the ingredients? And I don't remember what was the third one. So and it is possible to configure that. But there is, as you can see here, so the first one was to formulate a goal. So you have to select for a recipe in the application. The second one was planning. The third one was the execution. So execution, so the person is really cooking. So you have to present the recipe to the person in such a way that he is able to understand it. So depending on when I talk about personalization, depending on the profile of the person, you can provide more or less detail. Donc in the project, there were 2 persons that were able of metacognition. So they had a very specific interface for them where they have more information. For instance, they can see all the steps of the recipe. And there is one which it was a bit more severe, and so we had to provide task-specific assistance. So we have to help him in a more step-by-step fashion, giving less information. So in that case, he can see just one step, and he has specific information on that step. So you can also adapt the way you present the recipe to the person. So this is an example how you can translate one of the 4th step into the interface. So basically, our problem was first we have to build an intervention plan, and now this is computer science stuff, but I think it's quite easy to understand for professional caregiver. It's a hierarchical one, and then you define the approach you want to take, and then you define what are the interventions you want to take, and for each intervention you define the step of this intervention. So when it has to be triggered, what has to be said, and all this information. And with that model, with that plan, we can generate the interface. So for Cook, we generate the interface by hand, but the idea is to have we are doing research to have an automatic way to do this generation. So basically, you have the assistance system on the left. You have the plan. The assistance system takes the plan, and you have the interface that is related to the plan. And for every lead in the plan, there is an element in the interface, and you can decide. For instance, if the person is able to manage many information, so you can provide all the information in one screen. Or if not, you can provide for a suite of screen using a step-by-step approach. So it's very easy to modulate. So with that system, which is basically taking specifying an intervention plan, adapting it to the person, and then having the system that is running and installing the person, there is also a safety concern, because in the project there were a go-no-go question that arises at some point with the Centre d'Adaptation S3. The caregivers say, okay, if safety is not assured, we won't allow people to cook. So we have to address the safety. So we build a system specifically for safety issues. So for safety issues, Nathalie showed you how it is presented from the point of view of the end user. So the person receives a jingle and means, okay, you should turn off the burner and so on. But as I said, there were also concerns from the caregiver. So we provide them with an interface, a system that can enable them to monitor what's going on. So they know, okay, the security system is working, and the stove is closed. In that case, the stove is closed in both cases. So they are able to know when the person is cooking or not. And we have also to define a procedure for what happens when the stove is switched off. So we decided, okay, the person cannot restart the stove by itself. It's possible, but we decided explicitly speaking with the caregiver, so it will not be the resident that will restart the stove. The caregiver will have to go and restart the stove there. So if she goes there, she can check if everything is okay, everything is okay, she restart the stove. And we can also restart the stove at distance, but in that case we decided not to do that. And we also changed protocols. For instance, there is one resident that has a lot of allergy problems, and so we defined a very specific protocol for him in collaboration with the caregiver to be sure that when he's cooking it's safe for him. So this is an example when I was speaking about the caregiver part of the problem. Okay, I will go first. Fast. Okay, and there is, for all these elements, there is the possibility to do some personalization. So for instance, for the rules, for the safety, you can configure the rules. In the video it was 10 seconds, you can decide it's 20 seconds, you can decide this rule is not activated or not. So you have a very complete system which is built by an interdisciplinary team, and that allows an assistant in an ecological way. And we discovered that there are many side effects. Just introducing technology changed the way people are working, the way they interact, the way they perceive each other. When we were speaking about stigma, it happens. But the nice thing that happens is that the 3 participants now are not preparing their meals. They were not allowed to do that at the beginning of the project, and it was even worse because people did not believe that they would be able to do that. They say, okay, they will participate to the project, but we are sure they will never be able to do that. And at the end, they are not able. Of course, they cannot do that every day because they have to manage their energy and there are other issues. But for instance, 3 times a week, they can do that. There is a collaboration with that. And it results that there is an increase in their self-esteem and their autonomy. So basically, this is an example of an assistant technology that could be assistive technology that could be implemented and that it's working. And it's quite a complex one. But we want to go a bit further. But the idea is is it possible? It's very complex, but is it possible to build system in such a way that would be the people that will build their own smart homes? Because they will be empowered, and it's them that they know what they really need. It's them that they know what's happening in their home. So we are currently designing a kit that is called Do It Yourself Aid. The idea is to help during the design, the installation, the operation of the system. And a friend of mine said, when I was explaining the process, said, "Oh, you want to do the Home Depot of the smart homes?" And indeed, at the beginning, it was quite strange for me, but in fact, it's true. What we want to do could be as simple as if you want to do some renovation in your house, you go to Home Depot, you buy the stuff, you come home, okay, you ask advisors, and then you go back to the Home Depot and say, "Is that okay, I want to," and you speak with your neighbor. We want that to be as simple as that. So that's what we are trying to do that. So basically, what we are doing now, there are 3 possibilities with respect to technology. What we can do today that could be that we can do now, it's quite, let's say, easy and could be available. So there is a system which is called Aspire, and the idea is that we will connect the elder, or the health professional, and the technology developer together, and we will use very simple AI stuff like activity recognition. But basically, there is a person that you can interact with on the web. This person is a professional caregiver, and she will gather your needs. She will speak of your needs with a technology developer, and the technology developer implement the technology, and everything is shipped to your home. You do the installation, and if it's not working, you can call back. So very easy to do. Then what can we do tomorrow? In the sense that there is a lot of technology that is coming out. With the technology that is not quite spread everywhere, but it's coming. We know that it's coming, and it will be quite soon. That's why I say tomorrow. So one of the problems that we have to build 3D models of the home. So can we do that now? Yes, we can do that using the cell phone. There are applications with the cell phone. So basically, you use your camera, you do like that, and you can build a 3D model of your home. So you are starting to have more information to do that. And there are also AI tools that could be used to build on that. How much time do you have?
15 minutes.
15 minutes, okay. And then I want to go further, though what is not available will be available tomorrow, but what could be available, let's say, in 5 or 10 years. So you have seen on the video that Nathalie showed you, there was always that cell phone that people were interacting with that. So is it possible to do not have any cell phone, just to walk and speak with the system and can collaborate with that? So yes, we can using augmented reality. So I will show you a bit where we are. So basically, there are 3 time to assist. We have to design the system, we have to do the installation, and we have to use it. And for each of these steps, we are providing new solution. So as I told you, Aspire basically relies on the web, on people, to address these 3 steps. So you speak with people to the web, and you got the sensor, and that's it. And then there is nothing complex with that. So, but as I told you, what can we do further? So for tomorrow, what we can do a kind of dashboard. So let's say an application that you can access to your tablet, your PC, or stuff like that. And instead of interacting with a person, there will be an avatar that will which you are interacting. And it's the case now. When you are using Siri, you are interacting with an avatar, and all the stuff sold by Amazon and so on. These are avatars. The presentation is not based on the picture that is moving, but basically does that. You have to do 3D modeling of the home. So as I told you, with the cell phone, it's possible to do that. And then you have to, with that model, will have the position. Under the picture, you can see the model. You have the model of the home, but you don't know what are the essential objects, where they are, and so on, and where to put the sensor. So you have to work on that to give meaning to that space. And as Maxime and Nathalie told you, it's very complex to install a sensor system. There are many places where it cannot work. So we can design systems that repair themselves. So we can still also work on that aspect. So you install a sensor, and they detect that there is a sensor that is not working, and they also find an alternative solution. So for the design, so we have 4 steps. So we have to express the user need. We have the possibility to use something that is already packaged. There is a scenario, there is a solution that exists. I want that package, for instance, for night wandering, and I will use that in my home. There is where it's customization. I would like to make my own scenarios, but something that's different. And I would like to have something that is look like a blueprint, an IKEA installation guide. What I like in IKEA is they provide you with all the wood, the screws, and so on, and it's done in such a way that it's quite easy to install, in such a way that it's working, because every hole has its own dimension. There is only one screw to that, so it's quite easy to install. So for the scenario, in fact, what we are building now is a library of predefined scenarios for assistance. So there is so basically, so basically you have a set of scenarios and you select one. So in that case, we select the night wandering scenario. This is one scenario we have worked a lot. So basically, when my mother wakes up at night, she wants either to go to the bathroom, to the kitchen because she's hungry, or to the TV room to relax because she's a bit anxious. And then I would like her to go back to sleep. So you have this scenario, and then what you need to do, once you have selected that, is to personalize that to your own home house. So you have to create a semantic model of your home. So you have to know where are the rooms. So you build this model, and then you indicate this is the bedroom. So for the question to bring your mother back to the bedroom, you have to indicate, so this room is the bedroom. This place is where she sits usually. When she goes to relax in the living room, I would like this lamp to be open. So you have an interface that allow you to do that. But you can go a bit further using augmented reality. So this is an example of augmented reality. So basically, we are using the HoloLens system. There are glasses, and then you look in the environment, and now you have one lamp, and the system is asking questions. Show me where is the rocking chair where your mother usually sits when she goes to the living room, and then you look. Okay, this is the rocking chair. This is the rocking chair, and then show me which is the lamp that you would like to be light up to be in order in such a way that she relax. So there are 2 lamps, and the person identifies the ones that she'd like to use. And why there are 2 lamps? But the idea is that we are trying to build systems that are robust. So if there is one lamp that the bulb is not working, we can use the other lamp. So the system is also able to reflect on that. So quite easily, we can see that there are possibilities that can bring us a bit further and in such a way that people can build their own smart homes. So there was a predefined scenario. So you can also want to create your own scenario. For instance, there is no scenario to prevent your mother from going out at night. Though what you want to do, if my mother wakes up at night and try to leave the house, just play a message, "Mommy, stay at home," and send me an SMS. You want the system to be able to generate something like that. So we are also working on that, so you can do it using your computer, but we are also working using augmented reality. So basically you walk and you speak with the system. Okay, this is the bedroom, and when my mother wakes up at night and goes through the bedroom door and then to the entrance door, I would like you to play that message and to send me an SMS. So there is no interaction with device, you're just speaking with the system, directly with the system to do that. So we are doing that kind of stuff. Of course it's complex, because the environment are complex, but we are starting to have a result about that. And I think that given that information, so you can have a blueprint, which means what are the sensors that you need, where you have to put them, and how to make the assembly. So basically, for the night monitoring sensor, they would say, okay, for checking waking up at night, so you need a movement detector, a pressure rug, and load sensor on the bed. And you've got the list and to know where to install them. So you have this blueprint, you want to do the installation. So you receive, somebody prepares the set of sensors. Either you buy them by yourself, or somebody prepare that for you. And you receive a box with the sensor, and you have to do the installation. And the system will help you with that installation. So it will show you the place where it should be, and what are the sensors you have to put. In that case, you have to put a movement detector in the entrance. And with that information, if there is something that's special with the movement detector, for instance, if you have to put batteries, it will give you the information. You have to put battery and check for the battery. But you have to also install them in a very precise way. So we are doing, when I was saying that we are looking also for solutions that are not technological. We are working on jigs, when you are doing carpentry, there are these very precise triangles, just to get the right angle. So we are working on that, or designing these kind of jigs that will help you to do that information. And we are also working with augmented reality. So just by looking at the sensor, it will see to you, okay, it's open, it's placed correctly or not. So basically, we are investigating maybe solution, and the system will help you to be sure that the installation is okay. So now it is installed, you have to use it. So you have you can activate and deactivate any scenarios as you like, of course. And you have three kind of situations that you can assist. So the first one is cognitive assistance, for instance, the one of night monitoring. Or you have also the prevention system for the stove. This is an example of the system that will interact with the person to assist him or her to do a given task. And you have also other kind of things that you can do. You can do some monitoring over very short period of time. So when the example was when the person wants to go outside at night, just to send an SMS, I want to have that information. Or as a caregiver, we also did study with caregivers, and one thing that was a real concern for them. Okay, it was that I'm working, my mother is at home, my father is at home, and he has to prepare his meal, but I have no information, and I'm very anxious of what's going on. So we can, using the system for monitoring, we can provide that kind of information. Okay, stove is not working, so don't worry. Okay, now he's starting cooking, so maybe you should be a bit careful, but everything is okay. And then he finished, closes, turn off all the burners, everything's okay, so you don't have to worry. So you can be at work, having peace of mind, and do some sort of monitoring for a very short-term period. Or you can also have monitoring for, okay, almost finished, for long-term period, as Nathalie showed you about the person is eating correctly for this week. And this is the kind of thing we want to do in the SAPA project. And there are also for the maintenance, so you have this set of sensors that are installed, and we don't want people to fine-tune, fix, and all the sensors all the time. So the system has to do it by itself. So we are working also on research to do some kind of self-healing of the system. So what are the benefits of this kind of approach? So you have package scenarios, so you have solutions that are designed and that can be shared between people. So the idea, when we were speaking about making the system available to everybody, the idea is not that it's not a company that will sell the scenario, but it's that people that will build the scenario, and as they do in the do-it-yourself community, they can share their solutions. So, okay, I have a problem with wandering with my mother. Okay, I will check. Okay, there is one guy that has done that. That's a solution. So I take that solution, bring it to that, and so you create a community. You have the ability for those that are more geek. They have the ability to create their own scenario and then to share them with that. It will be easy to install and easy to extend. The system will reflect on what it will provide more autonomy for the elder and peace of mind for the caregiver. And for all these steps, you will have the choice. For instance, the installation, it can be you that install the system, but you can hire somebody to do that, or you can rely on a community, on benevolent, to say okay, there are persons, there is this community, they are benevolent. Okay, why don't you come at my home and install the system? And probably they will be very happy to do that. So you can create communities where the exchanges of service will be there. So there are many opportunities for different setup for the spreading of the system. So as a conclusion, the idea is to really go towards do-it-yourself. Say, this is to build a smart home that would be customizable by the end user. The idea also is to empower the user. It's them that will decide what they will want and what they won't want. There is a lot of discussion there. It's one of the ideas that we will put the professional caregiver at the periphery of care, in the sense that in the beginning it's not necessary to go and have to meet with an occupational therapist to have this solution. But sometimes there are very, very simple stuff, and you can decide, okay, I just want that when my mother wakes up at night, there is a light path that is open, and so she will be more secure when she will walk at night. So I don't need to go to a professional to have that information. And then progressively, the professional caregiver will come into the loop. So there will be a continuity of intervention and collaboration. So at the beginning, not so much intervention, and at the end, very much intervention. Like in the SAPA, there is a lot of intervention from the professional caregiver. It is AI assisted. We are trying to build on trends, and it is really AI assisted building on the Internet of Things, that the sense that there are a lot of sensors that will be available. And as pointed out by Nathalie, it will be reality. There will be 80 billions of sensors, of objects that will be connected. And for big companies, they are already doing that for very large projects. For instance, for all drilling holes under the sea, they are relying on the Internet of Things, and they are rethinking completely how it is done, how the station will be done. So it is done at the level of high corporation, and it will slowly become part of our everyday lives. You are using ontology, so there is really a co-creation of knowledge. There is the program is collaborating with the person to create a semantic view of the space, and we need both parts to have that. And the knowledge, the person has a part of the knowledge, and the program also has a part of the knowledge. And by having them collaborating together, we get a plus, something that is better, like Maxime showed you as one of the conclusions. So if we add the data, we get something that is better than just having the person. And we have the same kind of result for reading imagery with for detecting cancer. So the example that when you are using the program, you have a 92, I think, I'm not sure the number, but let's say 92% of accuracy. When there is a person, let's say it has 93%, but when they both work together, you got 98 or 99% of good diagnosis. Why? Because each one is good at one part of the task, and making them work together, you get something that is better for both of the person. And you can also we are using activity recognition and stuff, and we are also aiming at using advanced UI. So trying to get, when there was a comment on the complexity of the interface, and I agree with that. It should be as simple as possible, and ideally no interfaces, just the people acting in its environment. It's a way to communicate with the system. We want to build also on crowdsourcing, on social network, online community. Okay, just so to find new models, new ways of doing things, and for commercialization, there are a lot of issues. We have to build ecosystem of stakeholder communities, public and private organization. We have to decide what will be computed in the home and what will be computed on the cloud. There is a very serious issue about data. It will generate a lot of data. And all of you are already generating a lot of data that is used by corporations like Apple or Google and so on. And you got good services for that. For instance, for your localization data, you probably don't know that, but your cell phone is transmitting your position and the router that you are connecting to Google and Apple, and with that you get a more precise localization. It's already happening, but a part of the service you got nothing for that. So how can we can think about how can we use that data in such a way that you can get a reward for that, so that your service will be free. When you do that with your localization information, you get a service that is free for you. You get a more precise position. Is it possible with the sensor system, with the smart home, to have the same result, that you don't have to pay anything, just providing the data, we give you the service for free? So we have to think about that, and it's called monetizing data, and it's already happening. In Finland, they are thinking about that. So the important issue there is who will be the owner of the data, and we believe that the person should be the owner of the data and should decide what he or she wants to do with his data. So sorry I took a bit more time, so thank you very much.
Sylvain told me to make big waves because he's very passionate by his work. Thank you very much, Sylvain. We have time maybe for a very, very, very quick question because lunch is ready. Quick question for Sylvain. It was very clear.
Because nobody wants to have a system.
I heard someone wants to ask a question. No? Okay, thank you very much. Sylvie will take the lead.
Oui, merci pour cette belle séance. Alors, quelques housekeeping informations pour le dîner. Alors, le dîner est en haut. Vous avez tous des petits coupons derrière votre identification, votre cocarde. Et vous pouvez aller vous prendre à manger. Il y a des posters, je vous invite à les regarder. Il y a des salles autour de là où le dîner est servi. Vous pouvez aller vous asseoir. Vous pouvez aussi aller voir, il y a deux choses intéressantes. Dans la salle 1902, il y a une vidéo qu'on avait fait dans le cadre du 30e anniversaire, une vidéo mémoire vivante avec la thématique « Un souvenir de mes grands-parents ». Donc, si ça vous intrigue, vous pouvez aller au 1902, c'est juste à côté du lunch. Et il y a une grande salle 1910 où vous pouvez manger. Il y a aussi différentes photos à droite, là, qui relatent toute l'histoire du centre de recherche, aussi, si vous êtes curieux. Merci.